Hi folks, this is International Master Kostya Kavutskiy, and today I'll be doing a lesson on the decoy tactic. Now, a lot of people get the decoy confused with the deflection, and although they're often very similar, there is a very key difference that I'd like to share with you all. So a decoy tactic is when you're trying to lure an enemy piece to a very specific square or two. So you're trying to get their king or queen or rook or any of their pieces to a very specific square in order to create some kind of tactic from there, whether it's a fork, a pin, a double attack, what have you. A deflection, which we'll cover in a separate video, is when you're just trying to lure a piece away from the square that it's currently on or away from the defense of a specific square or piece. So you don't really care where it goes. You're just trying to get it away from wherever it is right now. So they're very similar, but that is kind of a key difference to think about, and it does kind of change our perception of each tactics. So for this video, we'll be talking specifically about decoys, and hopefully I'll try to give you guys some tips as to how to spot this tactic. Although in my opinion, this is one of the easier tactics to understand because it's just comes from basic observation skills, which most chess players develop over time. This first puzzle here, if you'd like, you can pause the video and solve it. Shows a very nice decoy. This is a classic game from 1925 featuring Nimzovich. And here Black wins the very nice move, rook to h1 check. So this lures White's king to h1, and after e takes f2, Black has created a winning double attack. The pawn is threatening to take the rook and queen, and Black's rook on c8 is threatening a mate along the h-file, and White has no defense to both of these threats. So really simple and very nice tactic here. This is a pretty thematic idea. We often find tactics like this where the king is lured to a corner in order to set up potential mating threats such as this one. So let's look at the next example here. For our next problem here, this is again White to play and win. And if you'd like, and I would encourage you to do so, you can pause the video and try to solve the problem for yourself. And here White wins with starting with the move rook to g8 check. Black is forced to play king to a7. If he blocks with bishop c8, White immediately comes in with queen b6, and this is a mate. So king a7 is forced, and now a very nice move, rook a8 check, and this leads to a forced mate in the position. So if Black takes with the bishop, this opens up the 7th rank for queen c7 check, and White's queen and bishop combine to deliver mate. Bishop b7, queen takes b7. And after king takes a8, this is probably the hardest variation to see from when you're calculating. Queen takes a6 just leads to mate as well, thanks to the pin along this diagonal. So this was the key decoy motive of luring the king to a8, where the bishop is then pinned to the king, and queen takes a6 wins the game, followed by, again, queen b7 mate. Our next problem here features a number of motives, but at the heart, in my opinion at least, this is a decoy tactic. And this is again White to play and win, meaning win a decisive amount of material or give mate, or both. If you'd like to solve the puzzle for yourself, feel free to pause the video and have a try. And here White wins, starting with the move bishop takes b7. Black plays queen takes b7. And now a very strong move, queen to d5. Now Black's queen is under attack, as well as the rook on a8. And once Black takes on d5, here is the key idea, knight takes e7 check. This is known as the Zwischenzug, or the in-between move, or some people call it an intermediate move. And because of this move, White is able to win material. Black has to play king to h8, and then White recaptures the queen and has snagged a bishop for his efforts. So a couple of things going on here. Number one, this queen d5, this is the decoy tactic. We're luring Black's queen to d5 specifically. You can also consider a deflection because we're luring the queen away from the defense of the bishop. And of course, the Zwischenzug is a key part of this as well. If this knight takes e7 did not come with a check, then of course the whole tactic wouldn't work. The queen would be free to just move away and White would be down a queen. But because it does come with check, White is able to win a whole piece in the process. Now, this is quite a difficult tactic to see if you weren't necessarily looking for it. I can imagine a lot of players might miss this during the game because during a chess game, no one is hinting to you that you have a tactic available, and hence we're not always very aware of the potential tactics. We're not always looking for them. But a couple of things that, if you observe them during the game, might catch your eye, will make it more likely for you to see this kind of tactic. The first one is that this queen on d7 appears to be somewhat overloaded. It is defending the bishop on b7 and this bishop on e7. In general, when one of your opponent's pieces is doing more than one task, so defending two things or defending a piece and defending a square, this usually should be some kind of hint or a signal to you that there is a potential tactic to try and take advantage of the overworked piece. In this case, the geometry of the position works out for white because after queen to d5, white's queen is, let's say, indirectly defended by the knight capturing on e7. The queen is also defended by the pawn on c4, but the tactic would work even without this pawn, since after knight takes e7, white can play knight takes d5. And here there are multiple hanging pieces in black's position, which in my opinion, this is what makes the tactic work for white. Of course, the queen is unprotected, the rook is unprotected, and this bishop is not defended adequately enough. If any of these pieces were defended a second time, the whole tactic wouldn't work. Meaning if the rook on a8 was defended, then black could simply move the queen and would be fine. If the queen was defended, then black could just move the bishop and would be okay. And if the bishop was defended a second time, then black could capture on d5 and after knight takes e7 check, simply recapture the knight and again not lose material. So a number of factors had to be in the situation here in order for this tactic to work. But as the player playing white, if you're noticing which pieces are unprotected or not protected enough, this can give you a hint that there might be tactics available in the position, and then you can try and focus and try to find the tactic for yourself. Our last puzzle here is black to play and win. So if you'd like to try for yourself, please pause the video and solve the problem. And here black wins with a relatively simple combination, starting with rook takes e3. We've taken a piece, so white is more or less obliged to recapture. And now after the nice move queen to c6 check, we start to see black's idea. White's king is forced to go to g1. And now black wins with bishop to c5, pinning the queen to the king. So here the decoy was simply luring white's queen to e3. In this case, black was also able to snag a bishop in the process, meaning that if white's queen was just to move away, black would already be winning material. And we line up the king and queen on this diagonal, and black ends up winning this material. Now, this puzzle, there are not too many factors here to notice, other than, of course, this pin along the bishop does seem quite tactically promising, as well as the somewhat exposed nature of white's king. But other than that, this is, I think, one of those problems where you just need to be checking the forcing moves in most positions with limited material anyways. And in a game, I think most players would find this tactic not based on observing anything specifically, but based on their knowledge that tactics often come from forcing moves. And as a chess player, you need to be checking these forcing moves for tactics in almost every position you play. With that, we'll wrap up the lesson here on decoys. Make sure to check out the exercises for more puzzles relating to this decoy theme. In general, I think this is a pretty simple tactic to understand how it works, how it functions. So I don't think you guys will have too much trouble with the exercises. Until next time, this has been International Master Kostya Kavutskiy signing off.